This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by SuperTech U. Did you know 85% of financial success comes from soft skills abilities and only 15% from our technical abilities? SuperTech U was created by longtime restoration pros Eric Sprague and Larry Wilberton. Their daily 3 to 5 minute videos train your entire company on the soft skills they need to make your business thrive. Plus, your entire team earns IICRC CEC credits, all for about the cost of 1 tank of gas. To sign up, head to supertechu.com/CRMag to get your discount for being a loyal listener to the Restoration Today podcast. That's supertechu.com/CRMag to sign up. Hello there. Thanks for checking out another episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today, I am excited to be joined by somebody who has probably one of the best smiles in the restoration industry. It will just light up any room she walks into. It is fabulous. I am joined by Mandy Ruiz, who is the account executive leader at AnswerForce. I had the pleasure of meeting part of the AnswerForce team, Bethany, actually at the Collective by Core last year in 2021. I'm losing track of my years with the pandemic and everything in there. And I've gotten to know more and more of the team throughout the last year, which has been really exciting. It's an amazing and dynamic team, and they all really know their stuff. So I am excited to bring Mandy on to talk about answering services and how this can kind of be a problem area for restorers, but there are ways to overcome the challenges of those after hours calls and being a 24/7 business and everything that goes into that. So Mandy, thank you very much for joining me. I'm excited to have you here. I'm going to toss it over to you to have you introduce yourself and share a little bit about the zoo that you have at home.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And yeah, I definitely have a zoo. So I'm a mom of 5. I have my oldest who's going on 16 next week, and my youngest who is a year old and 3 in between. So it is definitely a lot of fun here at the house. I have 4 boys, 1 girl, and no, the girl is not number 5. She is number 4.
Everybody must ask that, right?
Yes.
Somehow the baby is always the girl. I don't know how that happens, but
she was supposed to be. And then number 5 decided he was going to just, he needed to be here. So thanks to the pandemic.
Perfect. Pandemic babies. So how old is your daughter?
She's 7.
Okay. I see. Yep.
Exactly.
I have a similar 5-year, not yours is a little bigger than mine. I have a 5-year gap. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So those gaps definitely catch us.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So tell us about your role at AnswerForce.
Yeah. So I've been working with AnswerForce for about 4 years now. And honestly, it's been an amazing journey. I'm the account executive leader. Recently, I've kind of actually stepped over into a little bit different role. I'm kind of directing strategic partnerships. So I'm still working with the team, but just in a little bit different capacity with AnswerForce.
So how big is AnswerForce? Like, where are you located? I guess, where are your headquarters and how many people work in the company?
So I'm in Portland, Oregon. Our headquarters is in Portland, Oregon. I'm in Orlando, Florida. Okay. So yeah, we're a completely remote company. And as a whole, we're a little over 1,500 employees.
That is a lot. Okay. Yeah. So what different industries do you serve? I know it's not just restoration, but that's a big part for you. So what are some of the industries you serve?
So we primarily focus on trade and services. So we do heavily work with the restoration industry. However, we do also work with a lot of plumbers, electricians, construction. So anyone in the trade and service. And then on top of that, anyone in addition who needs assistance answering their phones.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So what are some of the pain points that you have found that restoration contractors have when it comes to needing an answering service or help answering their phones?
Yeah, that is one we definitely get a lot. So I'd say this year, when meeting you in RIA as well as Contractor Connection, we actually spoke with a lot of the contractors there and was able to kind of get a feel for what it was that was, some of the topics that you hear when dealing with an answering service. And one of them, it's, well, you sound robotic, or not you, but the agents, they sound robotic. You also get that the empathy is lacking. We understand that the people in the restoration industry, they're dealing with people who've dealt with, an event in their life that's been catastrophic for them. And, they need that. They need someone who is going to listen to them, who is going to be able to understand what they're going through at all levels in the company. And that's kind of where an answering service is supposed to step in also and help. If, they have an answering service, is that they're supposed to be that primary person who they reach out to. They're not getting a voicemail. They're getting a human being who's going to talk to them about what's going on. They may not have the answers for them at that moment, but just that reassurance of hearing a live human being being able to go ahead and have that conversation with them.
How do you train your people to know how to have those conversations? I mean, there are homeowners that are calling probably right after their house is burned, or there's a big flood in their house, big catastrophes are happening. So how do you train your people to know how to answer those calls?
The key point is to touch into the fact that we're all human. We've all gone, even if it's not that, we've all gone through something in our life that causes us to need to have that other bit of humanity in there, where you're able to connect with the person. So when training them, it's teaching them that even though you don't see the person, you're dealing with another person on the other line, and you don't know what day, even if they may come off a little bit rough on the edges sometimes during the call. You don't know what type of day they've had. You don't know what they've been through. And you have to put yourself in their shoes and understand exactly where they're at that moment.
Are there specific questions that your team kind of walks through that they're then sending the restoration contractor or whoever to dispatch out?
Yeah, so I know definitely with AnswerForce, we have the opportunity to customize the script. Okay. So either, if it's a new company coming into answering services and not really sure how to structure a script, we do have templates that's available for them to build off of. However, if it's one that they want to go ahead and have specific questions that is relative to theirs, because no restoration company is the same, right? Yeah. You have some that deal with fire, some that deal with mold, water, or biohazard cleanup. So it really depends on their industry. I mean, what sector of the industry that they're targeting. So the questions will vary, and they can help work with our specialists to mold that script the way they'd like.
Okay. All right. So have you found that customer expectations have changed at all from the pandemic? Like, I feel like people have maybe even grown more impatient. Like, we want it now. So how have you dealt with that? What do I guess restorers need to know on their end when it comes to customer expectations now, and how have you adapted?
Really, the key is that everyone, and you're right, everyone wants to get an answer. They want it now. When they pick up the phone to reach you, they don't expect to get your voicemail. They don't expect you to have a life. They expect you to answer that phone when they call. So really and truly, we have, I know, definitely with AnswerForce, it's 1 to 2 rings. We're answering that call to make sure that they're getting a live person on the phone immediately. They're not dealing with hold times, that are essential. They're dealing with someone who's picking up the phone and being able to talk to them. Like I said, people, they do want that. They have that urgency. They want it now, but you'll be surprised how patient someone can be if once you do pick up the phone, let them know, I'm working with you. I'm going to go ahead and gather that information and get that over to somebody. They'll understand that, but what they don't understand is when you don't pick up the phone.
Yes. And I think contractors maybe don't realize, if you don't have somebody answering your phone all the time, there's Google. So people are just going to go right down that page on Google. It's going to take an extra 5 seconds for them to call the next person in line. And they're not going to wait if they left you a voicemail to call you back. This is an emergency. They're not waiting for you. So
not at all.
Time is of the essence. So What do you think contractors should be looking for? Okay. I'm going to back up a little bit. What size contractor is ideal for an answering service? Like, is it mom and pop shops? Is it like once your ATI size? Is it everybody in between? When does an answering service become a good idea for contractors?
It's a good idea at any phase in your growth. From the beginning, if you are a sole technician and you've got your business and you've started up, we actually hear a lot where people are like, I'm not big enough, I'm not there yet. And it's like, actually, if you're that sole person and you're out there on the job and you're expected to do the estimates and you're looking also for the address to get to the next location, then you add on taking calls, you're at the right size, because that means that that's one thing that we can help take off of your plate. Additionally, if you're a much larger corporation, then at that time as well, because at that point you've grown, you also need to be able to market and advertise to continue to grow your business. So if you have one or two people sitting, at the desk answering calls, but you have 5 people calling in, then at that point, you're definitely going to need backup somewhere, someone who's available all the time, no matter how many people call in. If it's 100 people, you'll have 100 people answering your calls at each time. So it's really great for any stage of your growth.
Okay. What are some things that contractors should consider when they are trying to figure out an answering service or what's best for them?
Right. So one of the big things that I harp on is it's the fact that how do they understand the industry? Do they understand the pain points? If you're reaching out, one thing I will say, and that's why we actually do have a vertical with AnswerForce for the trade and service, is that it is, and especially with restoration, it's a different type of business, right? We've talked about how the empathy is definitely needed there. In addition, you're also dealing with insurance companies. So there's a lot of documentation that's needed. So you want to make sure that that answering service that you are working with understands the needs of your industry, understands, the type of callers that you're going to have, and have the ability to have emergency routing if they're, they need to be 24/7, because restoration, there aren't any holidays that they take off, right?
Yep.
Emergencies happen anytime. Yep. So you need to make sure that it's 24/7. In addition to that, also that they have the technology that's there to be able to assist you, not just taking the message, but also be able to upload your customer list. So somebody calling in, they're not giving their name and phone number 20 different times. No, they're able to, say, hi, yeah, can I speak with Joe? And that person be able to say, oh yeah, hi, Michelle, how are you? Has anything changed? Let me go ahead and get you over to Joe. So you want to make sure they have that kind of technological capabilities to keep up, to make sure that even though they're not in your office, they're a good extension of your office. The way that it should be looked at when you're looking at an answering service is that it's going to be a long-term partnership.
Mm-hmm. What does it look like during a catastrophe, a hurricane's hitting and you're ramping up? I'm guessing that you have a number of clients that are in the Gulf Coast and that area. So what does it look like inside AnswerForce when there's a hurricane coming or a hurricane has hit?
So we actually have agents in 15 states in the country. So for instance, I'm in Florida. If something happens on this end of the coast, we have adequate help over on the west side in the Midwest that's able to assist with calls. So it's not really for us, because we are remote, it doesn't affect us in the way that it would most call centers, because our agents are all over. They're able to help at any given time, and they're also able to ramp up. So, with catastrophes also means that those contractors are going to get an influx of calls. Yes. So getting an influx of calls, scalability is something that we really do well because of the fact that we're all over. So calls coming in, like I said, you get 100 calls that come in, you'll know that we'll be able to handle that call volume.
Okay. Do you know the volume of calls that you're handling in the restoration industry or overall? I'm a little curious on the numbers and data and kind of what you're handling. I think people always find that fascinating.
Well, with as far as the restoration industry goes, I know for sure we at least in a month's time, we definitely get about 300 calls. And that's after hours. So about 40, the data that we have, 40% of the calls that come in for our restoration companies come in after hours, weekends, and holidays.
Okay. Okay. So that means, but then you're also, like, let's say that the admin or the secretary or whoever is sitting at the front desk, they're on the phone during the day, it will bump to you then so that person doesn't go on hold or get kicked to voicemail, right? So even during the day, this isn't just an after hours or weekends thing. This is all the time having somebody else that can be a pure part of your team, right?
Exactly. We have some restoration companies who they forward their calls 24/7. You know, that we're the first line. So any call that comes in, we get the call, we triage it, we send it wherever it needs to go. Then we also have where, you know, their office wants to take the call, have the opportunity to take the call first. And in those cases, they have their front desk person. And if they're not available, then yes, it comes directly to us. Or guess what? That front desk person is going to need to take a lunch. They're going to need to take breaks. So while they're doing that, we're able to come in, you know, the lines can be forwarded to us and we're able to assist then. So it's really how you have it set up. And then some of the companies that we work with, they actually only utilize us for, you know, after hours. Once the business closes down, they'll use us for emergency reasons to be able to, you know, pre-qualify that lead, make sure they're not getting a bunch of spam calls in the middle of the night, or to actually make sure it's a legitimate lead for them.
Yep. Do you have any success stories from any of your clients? You don't have to name clients specifically, but maybe one where it was during a hurricane or a crazy loss or whatever, and your team was really able to step in and partner with a restoration company to help a client?
So with it was 2021. It seems like it was forever ago, but in the beginning of 2021, Texas was hit with a pretty bad winter storm. And, you know, one would think like, okay, we see they're dealing with excess cold. How could that be a restoration, you know, emergency? Actually, those buildings and those homes are not constructed to deal with weather that intense as far as on the cold side. So you had a lot of pipes bursting, meaning guess what? You've got water. You have water damage now in your walls, in your home. So I know that there was a restoration company that we did. They came, we actually reached out a lot to not just restoration, but the trade and service industry during that part to make sure that they had the coverage that they needed. And there was one in particular that I can think about. It was only a 3-person staff and 2 technicians and their front desk slash and operations manager, like, you know, she did everything. She was their office manager as well. And they needed assistance because their phones are blowing, you know, they're blowing up. No, that's not typically a busy time of year for them per se, not, you know, not as much as like the summer months, but for them, they got an influx of calls and they needed to be able to handle the calls as well as be able to go out there because like I said, her position was not just to, I mean, they had 2 technicians, but at that point, she was also running out and doing estimates now too. So there was no one to be able to answer the phone. And that's where, you know, we were able to come in and also assist. And another really big one, this was at the start of the pandemic. No one thought about this, right? At the start, that we were all going to have to close down, right? Everybody was going to have to close up shop. So most offices were closed and nobody was in the office to answer the phones. So during those times, we actually brought on a lot of we actually partnered with a really large restoration franchise unit.
Okay.
And we started assisting them because they were no longer in office.
Yeah.
They were working, they were working remote, and the staff that could work remote had to work remote. So no one was in the office. And we were taking on a lot of restoration companies because of that fact, because we were, here and able to assist 24/7 coverage. So that's also another way that people really didn't think that an answering service could come in. But when there's nobody in the office, those phones are still ringing. Emergencies are still happening. People's lives, even though they're still dealing with that, homes are still burning down, floods are still happening. So they still needed to be able to answer their phones. So that's where an answering service definitely came into play big there.
Yes, that is interesting and good. And that shows you guys work with big and small. I like that. Okay. So talk a little bit about how you and your leadership team stay educated in the industry. You mentioned earlier, you and I saw each other at RIA and at Contractor Connection. And then I've seen, and I think Shanna was there, right? And then I saw Bethany at Core, and she's been other places. So talk a little bit about the events that you go to and how else you're kind of staying up to date on what's happening in the industry so you can make sure that you're partnering with your clients as best you can.
It's really important in order to make sure that we understand the industry that we're working in. It's important that we educate ourselves as well. Like I said before, restoration is it's different. It's different. It's not one that is similar. So it's not a one size fits all category. So with that, you really do need to educate yourself on the terms. And that's something that we do. We go to these events. We were at Contractor Connection. We didn't exhibit. We actually attended the sessions. We wanted to know and understand what was going on, because being there and understanding that, we can then bring it back to our team so that we can then make sure our agents are trained on what's happening, on the standards. Contractor Connection, they have standards, processes that need to be met, and making sure that we understand that as well. Like I know with them, they, have that within you've got the first half a day to make sure you make that outreach to the customer. So it's making sure we understand so that when a contractor comes to us, like you said, whether they're brand new or they've been in for a long time, everybody has questions. And if they've never dealt with a call center before and understand kind of how it works, then they're going to also need a little bit of guidance as well. So it puts us in that position to be able to not just, assist with calls, but make sure that the script that they have is set up for success, as well as making sure our agents are set up for success with the proper scripting. So the information that we take in, we then share it with our team. We come back and we do a debrief, and we then train our teams on the information that we've learned.
Yes. Okay. I'm a little curious about, you're a fully remote company with about 1,500 employees. What does your company do to maintain a good culture and to have that actual team feel when you're not all in an office together?
We meet a lot on video call. I mean, a lot on video call. We also have our own, our own portal, essentially, where we chat and we communicate. So we're able to get on there, and we're constantly chatting every morning. We get in there, our team, they're putting, GIFs on there, and, we communicate a lot through there. We're also very supportive of one another. So our culture is one where we're actively engaging with each other daily. We'll do working meetings sometimes. So we're remote. But we don't feel that way. Actually, at RIA was the first time I met Shanna in person, as well as Pamela in person. We've been working together for over a year. I've been working with them for almost 2 years now. And it was the first time we met in person. And you know what? It didn't even feel that way. Most people were like, you all just met in person? Yeah, we just met, but you couldn't even tell, because we communicate so much on a daily basis that you don't feel that separation. But it is really nice when we can meet up in person every now and then.
Yes. Okay, so being a mom of 5, I have to know how you manage to be a leader at your company and manage a job and a team of people under you, and also have 5 children. Tell me about work-life balance and how you do
it. So to start, really and truly, I mean, everyone thinks their kids are amazing. And I'm on that bandwagon. I really do have amazing children. And to be honest, it really is a lot like leading. Yeah. So the way that I raise my kids, a lot of it is leadership style. So my oldest, my 16, about to be 16-year-old, he understands that he essentially is the manager. He has certain duties, certain expectations. And then, his brother, he's 11, he also has certain expectations. And each of them do. So really and truly, as far as working with them, they all have responsibilities in the home. That's the only way that this can work, because outside of work, and dealing with them cooking and working with them, my husband, he works about 3 hours away. So he's gone Monday through Friday. So it is me and just the team. And it does help that he's also military. So he's taught me some things that I work with them on. So, we are very structured. Like, all right, you get home, you two, you work with this one on this homework assignment. My oldest, I also homeschool him as well. So we've got a really, really great system that works here.
You also homeschool. All right. So how do you have your hours? How do you make sure that you're not, it's so hard, right? I think everybody who works remote deals with that. There's no separation anymore. You're not going to an office and coming home at the end of the day. So it can be a little difficult to separate. These are my work hours. These are my personal hours. I'm going to throw a load of laundry and I'm going to do the dishes now. I'm going to stop and do this. So how do you kind of define your work day? Or do you not?
I do, actually. I do define it. And the key is what you just said. It's work-life balance, making sure that when I'm in my day, well, now it's summer, so it's kind of all over the place with the kids. Yes. But, after dropping off the kids, I come into work and I focus on being present. So that is my key. Whatever I'm doing, I'm present. So at work, when I'm working with my team, I'm focused on them and, working through that day with them. And then once I'm done, I also have a really amazing babysitter who also helps out too. So she's here to help kind of pad whatever I can't, really get to during the day. But after working, I get off and then I'm done. Yep. I shut off my app. I shut off my computer and I'm home and I'm here with my babies, and I cook and I take them to football practice, take them to karate or pick them up from karate, and keep my day going. So it's making sure that I understand when I'm working, that's what I'm doing. And my kids understand that as well. If mommy's working, like right now, it's summer, they're home. They know mommy's working. They see that door closed, mommy's at work. They also know my hours as well. Mommy works from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So it's making sure that everyone understands the structure. Now, after 4:30 p.m., if I'm 2 minutes over, they're coming and peeking around the screen looking at me.
That's cute though. I mean, they know they've been waiting for you all day, and that's hard, right? When mom and dad are home. I mean, I go through that too with my kids when I'm home working, and they also are really good about leaving me alone. But there are times where they're like, but she's right there. I know she is. So
the key is I have to remember to keep the door when I'm working, keep it closed, because if, like I told you, if the door's open invite, then that means exactly mommy's available. So there, even the 1-year-old, he takes advantage. He will storm in full speed ahead if he sees the door open.
I mean, but being a mom is the best job, right? So it
really is.
There's so much joy in it, and I couldn't imagine being anything else. So,
and you know what? It's also about, I know for me, I previously came from a legal background, previously to working with AnswerForce, and I'll say this. AnswerForce changed the game for me because they are a completely remote company. So it allowed me to be able to have that work-life balance that I really needed to have. So it's making sure that, you're with an employer or you're doing a job that you love, but you also have the ability to have that balance. And that's one thing that I do have. I work remote. I know my boundaries, but at the same time, it is so awesome to be able to go out, there during lunch and see my kiddos, and be able to work on an assignment with my son. So I really, really do enjoy working for a company that has a completely remote model, even though I do love traveling though. I love going to the events. That's my getaway.
Me too. Okay. So that's a good segue. So what's on your agenda for the rest of the year? What events in restoration are you hitting up the rest of the year?
Ooh, so I know that there's a conflicting event that'll be happening during the time of core. So we won't be attending the core event next month. Okay. But after that, I know that there's the experience that we're looking at getting into. So we'll definitely try to make sure we're there. I know I'll be there. I'm going to definitely try to make sure that I'll be there, and then getting prepared for next year events as well.
Yep. Okay, before we wrap it up, I always love asking people your favorite podcasts or leadership books or any books. I'm a fiction reader, which I openly admit whenever people ask me that. I think I read too much nonfiction during the day to turn around and try to read more nonfiction at night. So I'm major fiction reader over here. But tell me some of your favorite podcasts and books and things that you've been reading lately or listening to.
I really like Andrew Huberman. I love his podcasts.
And what is it about?
He talks a lot about, so he's a neuroscientist, and he really goes into how to be more productive, and using your sleeping, how to train your sleep habits to be able to do that, like what not to do. Like I remember listening to one with him where he was like, don't drink coffee the first 2 hours after you wake up.
I have 5 kids and a full-time job, and my husband works 3 hours away. Sure.
You should have seen me the first week after trying that. But the fact is that he really gives great life hacks on how to be more productive and actually use the energy that your body harvests to be able to do that. So, I actually have my 11-year-old on it now.
All right. I am checking it out. I was listening to some Renee Brown this morning.
Oh, Renee. Yes.
Yeah. This sounds like another good direction for me. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. Brene Brown is definitely, when you start talking leadership, I am a Brene Brown fan all the way. I was just listening to her. She actually had one, Atlas at the Heart, with Viola Davis. Yep. And that one was really amazing. So I'm definitely all Brene. I'm on the Brene team as well.
I haven't listened to that one yet. I was listening to one this morning while I was out for a bike ride because it's beautiful in Michigan today. So I decided to go for a bike ride instead of go to the gym. And I was listening to one on how leaders value people who ask questions on their team. They place the most trust in people who ask questions, not the people who know it all. And we are in such a society where it can be bad to not know everything and feel bad to ask questions, but asking questions is a good thing, and that's how we learn more. So I thought that was a really good episode. But
yeah, well, you definitely need to send me that one. I haven't heard that one yet, but it's true. I mean, I know with my team, that is something I'm always encouraging. Yeah. Ask questions. That's how I know. If I'm more concerned if you're not asking questions. Yes. If you're not asking questions, either you're afraid to ask questions, or you feel you do know it all and no one knows it all. You have to have a growth mindset. So I try to foster that as well. Ask as many questions as possible, because that's the way you're going to learn.
Yeah, she talked about how she's actually pulled people aside after meetings where somebody's come out and asked a question. She's actually pulled them aside after and said, thank you so much for asking that question. That shows leadership on your part that you asked that question. I was like,
right. That's pretty awesome.
All right, Mandy. Well, it has been a pleasure chatting with you. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
No, not today. I just thank you so much for inviting me. I had a really, really great conversation.
I did too. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully in Vegas then in September.
Yes, I'll see you then.
All right.
For more Restoration Today, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, or find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts.